Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the new Gems of War faction of the Blackhearts. This is the second to last faction to be added to the game as far as all the currently existing kingdoms, though we are getting a new one midway through next month. But as far as currently existing one, second to last one, with Broken Spire being the only other kingdom currently within the game that does not have a faction. This place is associated to that of Blackheart and is a blue-purple, so we're just mostly going to be going over some teams, general strategy, and all that good stuff for the faction. As far as the layout itself, of course, it is shaped primarily like a dagger, which is rather unfortunate because if you're doing it for a quick kill method during the actual faction event, you do specifically have to do 5 rooms. As far as treasure rooms, the 2 that are not connected to the dagger are the 2 that are guaranteed to be treasure rooms, which are these 2 right over here in this little river area. These 2 will 100% of the time always be a treasure room of some kind, so you might want to take them last if you want to utilize them for their max amount of values, or take them as you need fit for multiplier bonus. This also means if you wanted to take them for some kind of bonus to make it easier to do the final battle, like when doing pure faction, it's probably not going to be too advised because you'd have to do like almost the entire faction by that point, since to go all the way to that corner, you'd have to do 6 rooms to be able to go get whatever this benefit is, if it happens to be something that can actually help you in a battle. So overall, you're probably just going to make a rush to the final floor, unless there's just a bonus, particularly in the first room that you just desperately need, like a Death Mark here. Actually, this one's not the Death Mark one, but something like a Death Mark 1 or the Agile or something like that might be worth picking up for a pure faction, as it is a little annoying since it is one of a more luck-based location. As far as the troops that we have available for it, do be mindful that you might not want to upgrade the Legend. It's perfectly fine if you do, you'd still be able to get it completed, though it will be slightly easier if you don't. The main reason for this is the very first one here, Blackheart. Every single thing in this faction has a boost ratio based on Doomskull, except for himself. The reason why you wouldn't specifically necessarily want to have this trait, if you can help it, is since the enemy is also getting boost ratio off those Doomskulls, while it will help you, it'll also end up helping the enemy. So there are 5 rooms, so you will get technically more of a benefit than the enemy will, given that you need it for 3 rooms, or technically all 5, but you know, 3 rooms where the enemy won't end up getting value from it. However, on that very first room, and particularly on the very last room when doing a pure faction, that's going to be a bit of a liability, since everything here has insta-kill boost ratio based on how many Doomskulls are on the board, which obviously if you end up dying that way, it's going to be kind of problematic. However, him himself is actually a really good tank, not only having some extra skull reduction, but he also ends up exploding a bunch of gems and then gains a bunch of durability, gaining absolutely all stats except for that of magic. It's also boosted based on all enemy kills, so if you end up killing like 2 kills during the fight, he'll end up doing 20 to 3 additional stats, so that's quite a bit of stats. Technically, every single kill that you end up getting across anything on your team will ultimately end up being a total of 30 additional stats. So he can definitely stack up a decent amount, and kind of scales as you keep winning out the battle. He's basically just an unkillable tank. You're going to be running him primarily for the faction itself. Deathblade's kind of like that other blue-purple troop that we end up having. His main premise is he just does a little bit of poke damage and has a chance to insta-kill. He has the highest chance to insta-kill out of anything here, and if you can start getting a lot of Doomskulls on the board, can definitely be something that you can build around. And if you did happen to fully trait the Legend, it is probably worth building a little bit more around him if you are doing something like the pure faction build. The other 2 aren't really too irrelevant. Night Arrow is basically just a weaker version of the other one, having a smaller boost ratio and just doing some poke damage. And the very last one just gets to disease all enemies while still having the insta-kill. Overall, these 2 you're probably not going to be using. If you're doing pure faction, you're likely using some combination of both of those. And outside the context of pure faction, I don't really feel like you're going to be using anything from this faction when doing actual battles. Aside from that, we do have, of course, a new weapon from the faction event that can be obtained during the actual faction event itself from the 410 gems in the shop all the way over here. The weapon's pretty bad. It's like pretty much every last hitting dagger within the game. It does some just does some true damage to the last enemy, and there's an insta-kill chance to kill them out based on Doomskulls. You're pretty much just better off using Life and Death. It's already half the colors of Life and Death anyways, so if you end up picking Life and Death up last Tuesday, well, you might as well just be using that, as it is a much superior option compared to a single poke like this. I guess you could theoretically try using it for the insta-kill and all that, but Life and Death's just going to be way more consistent, so I wouldn't really advise messing around with this weapon, especially since it's only a single target. If it was like a double target with a double insta-kill chance, it might be okay. But it's pretty much just a weaker version of Life and Death in most situations that will just ever so occasionally end up netting you a free kill off that. But anyways, let's go over a bunch of teams. So it is blue-purple, so we do have quite a lot of access to strong, viable teams for this place, all of which are in the description below if you want to go copy-paste any of them. So first up, we have a pretty standard one, kind of just a standard Rowanne build. You use your Scale Shield into Rowanne, cast Rowanne, win. This can run all the way to 500. I used it a little bit deeper than normal. I think I ran it to about 150, almost 200 this time around. But you can run it to all the way to 500 if you so choose, if you don't have other options. It's just a nice quick kill team. Rowanne just hits everything. You do have to watch out for those few submerge options here and there, as this team does not have a hard counter to it unless you switch your hero class to have Dispel, which normally you don't. You normally use like Archer for Green Storm and insta kill, or you do something tankier like Titan, or any other similar hero class that has Barrier on Brown. Then you could use one of the hero classes that have Barrier on Brown with Dispel, which like the Dwarven hero class or something similar. But then you don't have half mana start. And of course, even though the restriction is blue-purple, you are allowed to use any colored hero weapon. So in this case, of course, our Scale Shield. And we actually do the same for the Tesla team down there. As far as the team that I started using for the later rounds, and I'm still using, pushing up all the way to 500, is just a High King Irongut Zugov team. And just using the Thrall Leprechaun mana accumulation team. You can easily replace out if you don't have something like Zugov, just because the Thrall Leprechaun, pretty much any team, regardless of if you're missing even both of these, you can just build entirely around Thrall Leprechaun 2 damage sources, and you're probably going to be fine. Like Hero as one of your damage sources, maybe tanking up front, and then something else, like this being Hero with some kind of skull reduction or Barrier on Brown, and this being some kind of really heavy damage source, and you're pretty much going to be fine. This, of course, if you happen to have it, High King Irongut and Zugov works out the best, but you can have pretty much any alternatives where first slot's your hero tanking, and your third slot's just any damage source that you have that's capable, like a Tesla or, something similar there, depending on what you have access to. Speaking of Tesla, of course, we do have access to Tesla for this place. While we don't have Holy Saint Asher for the 50% mana start, we do have Thrall or Leprechaun for mana accumulation. So this is kind of like that team I was mentioning earlier, except using just a double Tesla as our damage source instead of a second mana accumulator. So we're basically just using the Scale Shield to get more armor and keep anything that's getting close to death alive. We have it set to Titan so we can get a little bit more survivability. We have Thrall for a bunch of mana accumulation. You can use Leprechaun or something similar instead if you choose. This one just happens to be running with Thrall. And then we have double Tesla, and if you don't have double Tesla, one Tesla with another support could potentially end up working, but the main premise of Tesla is she boosts ratios off of all the armor in play, including your own, including the enemies, so she just scales throughout the entire time, because even if your stats aren't getting higher, the enemies are, so you can end up getting good value early on in the delve, because you're boost ratioing off your own stats, and then you get good value later on in the delve, because then you're starting to boost ratio off of their stats. So it kind of works out pretty nicely. And you can just run Tesla the entire time, similar to that of Rowanne, and works a little bit better if you happen to have double Tesla rather than Rowanne, as it does scale a little bit better to those harder battles. So as far as pure faction, I would say there are 2 main ways to do it, depending on if you have or have not fully traded your Bile Blackheart. If you haven't fully traded your Bile Blackheart, I am personally going to be running with 4 of him. This might seem like a really weird team, however, 1 of him is actually enough to solo probably most of your battles. The reason for having 4 of him and not more support things is mostly because you're going to potentially randomly die to insta-kill, and your main goal by the end of the faction is to make sure you have ideally 2 Bile Blackhearts going into the final battle. 1, so if they happen to insta-kill you, you have a backup one, and then that backup one being the one that you actually went off of. Because this troop has pretty much everything you need to properly not die as a tank in delves. It has some additional score reduction, it has a bunch of mana accumulation, and it has both a attack gain with a durability gain. And not just does it have 1 durability gain, but it has 2 durability gain, and it also even scales as you get kills across the battle. So overall, a single one of these, if it wasn't for insta-kill and other mechanics that might end up cheesing it, like transform or something else that might end up clipping it here and there, it's pretty much going to be near invincible, not literally, but definitely a extremely good tank for running 4 factions compared to some that we've been getting. Probably one of the strongest ones, among one of them anyways, that we've ever had for a faction. So him on his own is just enough. The main reason for having more is for all the insta-kills, all the transforms, all the anythings. Even Lycanthropy still around this Halloween weekend, so during the full duration of this event, there are still Uberdoom skulls falling from the sky, there's still Lycanthropy gems falling from the sky, and of course the wildcard gems, which are lasting all season, but those other ones are just lasting for Halloween. However, Halloween does go through the full duration of this current delve on when it's launching this weekend, so do be aware of that. So that's the main reason for spamming him. The other option, if you have actually maxed him, is double up on him and hopefully have at least 1 going into final, so your team is at least 1 tank with double Deathblade. Just end up utilizing his convert in order to get boost ratio. Let's say there's 4 skulls on the board, after even just 1 turn he's going to have a 25% chance to insta-kill, so you're basically going to be utilizing that and just hope you get really good RNG. It kind of plays a little bit similar to that of Crypt, and you basically just hope that your troop ends up insta-killing, The main difference being instead of using the legendary for the insta-kill, you're now using a epic for the insta-kill. Actually, it's almost like Stone Song Airy in that regard, because if I'm not mistaken, the epic was also the one that had insta-kill from that location. So it actually plays somewhat similar to that, because you're using one really heavy mana accumulator with one random RNG insta-kill. I would not advise this one as much, but if you have already upgraded him, it is probably better than trying to just spam the Belial Blackheart, so you can actually utilize his Doomskull conversion rate in order to try to bank on some of your insta-kill. You do have to do 5 battles, so while the enemy will be able to benefit from your own Doomskulls in the first and final battle, particularly the first where it doesn't have any mechanic to do so, because the last ones are always going to have it since there's a legend there of the enemies. But still, you can still use this value for the other 3 battles, with the enemy not being able to use the value, so it will probably give you enough to kind of make it through. One other benefit that if you're going down this route too is you could potentially take those treasure rooms on the side in order to take those for a little bit more value in case they have like an Agile or Death Mark on Skull, because if I'm not mistaken, nothing here actually has immune to Death Mark if you do happen to pick up that room, like if it happens to be like the very first room that you see right here. It's normally a tier 5, it's the other tier 5, no, not this one. But if you see like that just sitting right there, you pick up your Death Mark and then head right there, or pick up your Agile, head right there. Well, you might not need Agile necessarily, but it could help. I'm pretty sure the Death Touch will help a little bit more. If you can even just get one random kill out of nowhere, it's probably going to be worth the value. But anyways, guys, that'll wrap it up for this video. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. As per usual, all of the teams that we have mentioned during this video are below if you just want to go and copy-paste any of them. Anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching, and have a wonderful weekend. Goodbye, everyone, and best of luck with the faction.